light struck from the lemon tree. What if I'd never seen hysterical light from Eugene? A lemon yogurt. Remember I pulled at your shirt. I dropped the ashtray on the floor. I just wanted to be near you.
In the book English Spirituality, Anglican priest and author Martin Thornton describes the English spiritual tradition, which he calls the English school. He describes this tradition as characterized by a friendly and almost familial bond that transcends social class and political status. With this bond, friends are not afraid to challenge each other, even if one of the friends might be in a position of power and authority over the other. Thornton writes on page 49, there is a strong pastoral insistence on the unity of the church, wherein a deep family relationship exists between priest and layman, monk and secular. Hence the Englishness of the Gilbertines and Marjorie Kemp's Norfolk. Our distrust of clericalism and authoritarianism is no shallow or modern trait, but the result of a long pastoral heritage based on the doctrine of the body of Christ. When the squire objects to the parson's biretta and lace cotta, or the church warden rejects the advice of the vicar, we are inclined to say that they do not understand the Catholic faith and have no respect for its priesthood. That may be true, but their attitude is not wholly inconsistent with a truly theological tradition. Marjorie Kemp would agree with them. So would Richard Rolla, these 14th century English mystics, and possibly Aelred of Rievaulx as well. The principle underlies the ascetical structure of the Book of Common Prayer, seen as a system, not a series of services. It is the common basis, sort of the level playing field, for the Christian lives of the Archbishop of Canterbury, the Superior of Murfield, and all the schoolgirls who were confirmed yesterday. It embodies the pastoral spirit and domestic emphasis of the Benedictine rule. So it's this level playing field for friends across different social classes and positions of authority. This long pastoral heritage may be traced all the way back to the Anglo-Saxon Witan, which was an assembly of noblemen who advised the king. The English propensity to advise, question, and even challenge authority may have contributed to the development of the English Parliament, the signing of the Magna Carta in the 13th century, the constitutional monarchy, and perhaps even the Church of England's rejection of the Pope's authority in the 16th century, which led to the birth of the Church of England and Anglicanism. At its best, this questioning of authority is not driven by rebellious and destructive forces, but rather by a constructive and responsible loyalty. It's like the fiercely loyal opposition. In Anglo-Saxon poems like Beowulf and Dream of the Rood, we see expressions of this fierce loyalty, especially between the king and his thanes, who comprised a group known as comitatus. The warrior or thane within the comitatus would be bound by loyal allegiance to fight in a battle and even die for the king, who in turn would provide support, honor, and reward. The devoted allegiance to the king within this comitatus is implied in this Anglo-Saxon proverb, which is included in this text, Classics of Western Spirituality, Anglo-Saxon Spirituality, has a list of maxims. A young prince must be prepared with loyal companions. The entire proverb goes like this: a young prince must prepare for war, good companions, and give rings. The ring served as a symbol of loyalty in Anglo-Saxon culture. Loyalty and profound friendship. And you will notice references to rings all throughout Beowulf, a poem that had tremendous influence on C.S. Lewis's friend, J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote The Lord of the Rings. Aelred, who was born in Hexham, Northumbria, and who came from a long line of Anglo-Saxon priests, developed a close friendship with the Scottish King David I of Scotland, and his son, Prince Henry, thus helping Henry fulfill part of an ideal prince's obligation to be prepared with loyal companions. And during his lifetime, Aelred was actually known mostly as an historian who authored the life of St. Edward, the King and Confessor, one of the last Anglo-Saxon English kings. So he clearly was steeped in Anglo-Saxon spirituality. Aelred's Anglo-Saxon blood and early upbringing may have contributed not only to his fierce loyalty to Prince Henry and King David I of Scotland, but also to his audacity in offering constructive advice to his superiors. Impressed with Aelred's loyal integrity, the king quickly promoted him to be head steward of the entire royal household, which is quite a responsibility. When he later became the abbot of Rievaulx, Aelred occupied a position of authority himself and was thus vulnerable to other people's questions and challenges. And when we read spiritual friendship, we will see how comfortable Aelred's character in the dialogue seems to be in response to the questions and confusions and critiques of his monastic subordinates and interlocutors, Ivo, Walter, and Gratian. He does not seem threatened at all because he trusts in their loyalty and love. By presenting his ideas in the form of a dialogue with friends who do not always agree, Aelred invites us readers today to enter into that same conversation authentically with the freedom to disagree within the safety of Aelred's theological Witan. In his first book, Mirror of Charity, Aelred says, "Let us correct one another, knowing that wounds from a friend are better than an enemy's deceitful kisses." Wounds from a friend are better than an enemy's deceitful kisses. Those are the wounds of that we might get to maybe our ego when some friend challenges us or questions us. In light of these characteristics of Anglo-Saxon spirituality, we ought not be surprised when we read how much Aelred stresses loyalty as one of the key qualities to seek in a spiritual friend, along with frank honesty. As you continue reading John O'Donoghue's Anam Cara, as well as the other readings for this week, one invitation is to find something within those readings with which you might disagree, or perhaps question and critique. And then share that in the forum within the larger context of kindness and respect and friendship, knowing that friends can disagree. Also this week, we will be wading into the waters of Anglo-Saxon spirituality by reading the beginning portion of the great Anglo-Saxon poem, epic poem, Beowulf, and pay attention to references to friendship. Although scholars say that this is an uncommonly treeless Old English poem, we'll make up for that by reading The Dream of the Rood, a shorter poem, which is one of the great Old English poems of the 8th century, which refers to the Lord's thanes, like the thanes in a Witan, within the context of describing the cross of Christ as a tree that speaks to the poet in the poet's dream. O'Donoghue writes about trees as special places of divine presence within Celtic spirituality, And he talks about the human eye feasting on the dignity of trees, which lose their leaves and retire inward during the winter, and which serve as the most powerful image of memory, he says. He even writes about the California redwood, like the one right outside my window here, in talking about how trees hold memory. This week you will be invited to befriend a tree by spending at least 20 minutes sitting under the shade of a tree. Acknowledge the tree as a sentient being with whom you can have a conversation and with whom you might even befriend. When Bernard of Clairvaux urges Aelred to write spiritual friendship, he says, "My friend, you have discovered things in the woods that you would have never found in books. Stones and trees have taught you things that you would have never learned from your school teachers. Your experience of simply sitting under the shade of trees has given you wisdom that ought to be shared." So I invite you to spend some time under the shade of a tree and befriend a tree.
I just wanna be near you. Still I pray to what I cannot see. In the sprinkler I mark the evidence known from the start.